High-grade Universal Century Nemo. Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2R's 2B's gundam.tk, and you've already seen everything from the unbox to the parts to the MS there for the high-grade Universal Century Nemo, as I'm going to call it here. Anyway, it's time for my thoughts, good and bad, so that you can make your own call whether you want to add this to your Zeta high-grade collection. Kicking things off with the negatives from the unbox, are going to be a little bit disappointed when you open it up, just in terms of the coloring, because you're going to be getting, of course, the navy blue and the green, and the clear orange is a nice plus, and a little bit of yellow. But outside of that, you'll notice that there should be some red colors all over the place, and this is something I talked about at length before, but it's all going to be provided by seals here, and these are going to be going on the insides of the sides of the legs and the back and on the shoulders. And it's just the kind of thing where when you've got this much red on a sticker sheet, it should have really been done up in plastic when you put it on, because you could definitely be putting in a red piece there and on the back of the legs. And the most noticeable one, even though it's going to be somewhat hidden because it's on the underside there, but on the chest, and that's just the kind of thing that just comes across as being a little bit lazy. And it's been a long wait for 2013, and it just doesn't quite seem like that aspect of this kit is up to snuff. And I think that the biggest complaint people would have is going to be the seals. But there are some other ones as well, because first of all, they're going to be showing off some other things. Again, red could fix that. The bottom of the feet should have all sorts of cool red stuff down there in terms of the thrusters and everything else, and they're just not going to be done at all. And that's the kind of thing, if they're going to be giving you a sticker sheet this big, well, why not just throw those in if you're going to be advertising that around the box and in the manual itself. Posability is also going to be a bit of a knock against this, and perhaps for some people quite a knock, because you're talking about simple old school mobility, 90 degrees for the knees, 90 degrees for the elbows, and because of that, even though you're not going to have all that many weapons options, they're just not going to come across as being all that overly stylish. And even if you want to go up in the air for an action base, you're going to have options, but not all that many. However, for a grunt suit, some people may be able to overlook it, but it's the kind of thing that it's just we've done so much better in terms of what we can do with things like the high-grade age kits that are selling for sometimes 500 yen less than this, and it just seems like for a simple kit with a simpler color scheme, that the actual posability and the mechanics that go into it come across as being too simple sometimes. But are there positives? Definitely yes, and I think a lot of them are just going to come down to the fact of how old school, and this is the kind of thing that is just, you want a high-grade Universal Century of this kit so much, because if you want to look at something as simple as the box art there, you've got Nemos flying out at all sorts of different angles, and it's the kind of thing, if you want to go and have all the old classic Zeta crew, to add to them with 3 or 4 of these guys in various poses, just comes across as being a lot of fun. And of course, I'm a big fan of the original green color scheme as opposed to the unicorn one, where it just seems like they wanted to get rid of the idea that things were colorful and designed to be selling to children in the 1970s, well, 80s, in terms of the actual models. In terms of the other positives, well, the colors are going to be bright and vibrant, as you've seen, but the rest, in terms of the posability, is there's going to be some pluses there to go along with the bad stuff for the elbows and the knees. The ankles, I'm a big fan of that, just there's a lot of mechanics on display there. They're going to be looking good, they're going to be moving very well, and little pluses like the fact that you can detach the heels from the actual feet themselves, and it's going to be looking pretty sharp. The waist section is going to be very, very simple, but the chest, I'm a big fan of the yellow vents that are going to be put on here. If you take the time to line them up, I think it's going to add a lot to it. The green neck piece there and the shoulders are big pluses, the way that they're going to be moving out. And I'm really impressed with the gray part here on the shoulder itself that's going to allow a good range of movement there. Little pluses like the fact that this part here is going to be moving, and other things like the gray parts being exposed, like you can see down here on the calves, or sorry, on the hips up there. And when you take a look at the back, you're just going to see thrusters, and they're going to be done up in plastic. It's the kind of thing, it just makes you wonder why more important things weren't actually going to be done up that way. In terms of the weapons themselves, well, the beam sabers are going to come across as being simple and effective, and I love that green color there. It's always great to have a mix match and a variety between the blues and the greens and the pinks and the kind of thing like that. And the beam rifle is going to be solid, because anytime you've got a high-grade Universal Century that can hold it in both hands, that's a huge plus. And the shield is going to have a couple different options between the large size and the small size. You can rotate it around if you want, but also just you can fiddle with the attachment mechanism and have it on a few different ways. Simple, effective weapons, but they are going to add to some decent possibilities. And one of the pluses for that is because if you were to go out and buy 3 or 4 of these and do some army building, well, you can have different manipulators and go show them off in different ways Dynamic open hands, closed hands for left and right. That's always a big plus for me. You're only going to have the beam rifle done up here, or the trigger finger, 3-finger split. You remember, they're not going to move though like Master Grades. It's only going to be done up for the right side. But again, it's a plus because it's going to go in there and it's going to fit in there solidly. And when you combine it with good thrusters, and more importantly, a great head sculpt. I'm not a big fan of the big yellow seal that's going to be sort of dominating and rounded in all the wrong places up on the top. But the blue is going to look solid, this single antenna is going to look great, and most importantly, not all seals are bad, because when you put on the silver one with the all sorts of mechanical looking things, under the clear orange part there, it's going to be catching your eye, it's going to reflect all the light from the room that you've got it on display in, and it's definitely going to have a neat look and set itself apart from both the heroes with their traditional eyes and the mono-eyed bad guys there. He is going to be looking overall solid, classic, and cool. But these considerations are going to lead to a pretty split verdict here, as I think this is the kind of kit that you could definitely pass on unless it was exactly what you were looking for, and by that I just mean 1/144th. If you want to go and build an army and you're a big fan of Zeta Gundam, this is definitely something you want to pick up. But it's the kind of thing where I see for 1,500 yen, if they sold this guy for 1,000, I probably wouldn't be so complaining about it. However, it's the kind of thing, again, just put in some red parts and get rid of that massive seals. It wasn't particularly fun to put on because the seals just, every time I did it, it just took away from the actual fun of the build itself. Even though I'm actually pleased with the end result in terms of the looks and the classicness of it, well, it does everything that you want except actually move his elbows and knees. But it's just the kind of thing, if you're going to be looking at a master grade we're talking well less than 3,000, I think it's about 2,800. And it just comes across as if, I'm saying this without having built the master grade, but if I saw 28 for the master grade on the shelf after seeing this one for 15, I would probably want to step it up to the master grade. Now, of course, as a 1/100th fan, more or less, you know, that's going to be an easy choice for me. But if you do like 1/144th, you're going to like this for what it is. And for painters who are going to go ahead and deal with all of its deficiencies, and if you want to go and modify the mobility and things like that, for the elbows and knees, you can do that. But for me, this is a kit where I could definitely see the advantages in going for the master grade. It's got a full inner frame, moving cockpit, and all sorts of great stuff. And you're looking at it less than double the price. If this was 1,000, I'd recommend it without hesitation. But for 1,500, I've just got to say that it had enough negatives that for me, it's something, and I don't say this often, that I think you could give a pass to. But of course, this is all subjective, and I'd love to hear your thoughts with a comment down below. In terms of future speculation, you've got to wonder if this is going to be as good as it gets here for the Nemo. We've already got it in 2 different color variations for high-grade Universal Century, and you always have to ask the question, would we have got in it if they hadn't put it in Unicorn in its more drab color scheme there? But it's also cool because Bandai can sell you 3 different master grades and 2 different high grades, and who knows if we'll ever be getting more online exclusives in the future. But real grade would seem to be out of the question, which means maybe this is going to be as good as it gets there. Anyway, everybody, I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially the people that have built up the Unicorn version. What do you think of that one compared to this in terms of the colors and the master grade? Just my quick inspection looking in the old Bible here. When I saw the prices, I would go for this one personally, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, the opinions here. When I give the list of good and bad, please remember to omit and ignore all the ones that don't apply to you. And as always, stick around. But thanks again for watching, everybody, and stick around for lots more news, reviews, and everything else you can use. Gundam.tk. But you know, to economically build up scenes like this, definitely remember that there's some positives here.